Right.
So, hello, magical souls. I'm very delighted to share this very hot topic with everyone today, and that is how men are finding the new earth energies. And we are very blessed today to be sharing this podcast with Peter Ahkia. Sorry, I did that wrong again. Ahkia. There we go. Peter Ahkia. Thank you for joining us, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. So, Peter, the new Earth topic is something that's shifting to help many of us think about a different aspect of our lives. And I'd love to explore with you specifically how it's affecting men at this time. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, sure. I believe in our current world, we often have camps and different groups based on gender, based on sexual orientation, based on race. And at the end of the day, we can go through all this, but just in the beginning, I like to remind myself that in answering any questions is in the context that we're all one, right? And in the greatest scheme of things, we we have been all roles. And if there's no time, we have been it all, right? I've been a woman, I've been a man, all sorts, an animal. And so having that context, we can approach this topic with much more empathy, with much more clarity, in that, yes, it's okay to talk about it in our current incarnation, but also keeping in mind the greater scheme of truth is that we've been it all.
I love the way you've answered that. That's really, really good. I think that's so true what you're saying about different camps and some people, some men are feeling very I don't know what the word is, threatened maybe by women having a voice now. And other men are just taking it in their stride because they've been women in a past life. They don't really mind th that sort of thing. But yeah, it is quite a good way of saying there's different camps. Some people are feeling that it's a difficult situation. Some people are feeling that it's a good situation. But what aspects of the old masculine do you think are dissolving, and what qualities of the divine masculines are rising up instead?
Hmm. Yeah, maybe we can look at it from the divine masculine backwards, in that I think dissolving is one perspective that it is dissolving. The other perspective is just everything is morphing. And in the universe, change is the only constant. So it's the constant evolution of all sorts of energy coming together. And if you imagine it as a palette mixing colors, but in this case, it doesn't become brownish or grayish. It's new colors coming in and then reinventing anew. So I see that as more of a dynamic shift rather than it is always a one-way direction. Now, energetically, I think most people have a sense that the masculine energy and the feminine energy there's a shift, but even that is giving into the dichotomy that there is only two sets of very polarized energy. So perhaps, and that's one that's perfectly fine looking at it this way. We are in male bodies and female bodies by and large. So that is the context we're looking at this. But if on an expanded basis, perhaps there are spectrums of energy that is a full circle, and the meshing of it is just a natural progression of evolution.
I love that. I love the way you spoke about the different colors. As an artist, I use different colors all the time, and I love all the colors, and I love all the different viewpoints coming into the world. So I'm really grateful to you to bring in that analogy. It makes sense to me, definitely. Okay, and do you think that men, or are you noticing men finding it easier now to connect with intuition and inner guidance? Are they feeling, happier to do so?
Hmm. Yeah, I think by and large that is probably anecdotally the case. If you look back way in time, a lot of what's in recorded history, the enlightened ones have been incarnated in male bodies. And so to see that as an extension, it's not so much that all of a sudden men are opening up. I believe everyone on Earth, whether they're in female bodies or male bodies, are doing the same. The what has changed, I think, and this is just an opinion, is that the social construct is a lot lighter now. There are the light workers and people who are coming into realization of a greater truth is piercing through the social construct and the confinement of whether in this carnation they're in a male body or female body. And also the gender roles are playing more of a fluid part. Take the family role, for instance. Fathers are traditionally outward facing and providing money to the family, while the female role, the mothers are staying at home. But that's by and large being mixed, right? So the stereotypical roles for certain societies, there is more of an acceptance that that can be more of a dynamic role. And that does help people who would have traditionally identified with gender norms. And they may perhaps not do that willingly. It may be going with the flow, that there is a social pressure to take on certain roles. And now it's more free to, it is more okay, right? Other men in the soccer team won't make fun of you for, oh, I'm staying at home, I'm taking care of the children. Whereas before, I think I speak for myself, perhaps sometimes there's a social pressure to say, oh, I have to do this. When inside you're oh, I'm looking forward to spending time with kids. But if there are other more masculine men around, perhaps there's a social pressure to say, oh yeah, I have to stay home. Right? So that kind of social pressure is a lot lighter now for people to freely express themselves. And women too, for women that are very career driven, it's not seen as negative as before, where this person, no wonder she's not married, and there's a lot of negativity around that concept. But now it's more, hey, it's a free choice. Somebody wants to get married, you don't have to be truly happy, whatever the current circumstances that can be arrived at. Not necessarily you have to have children, not necessarily you have to be married. Right? These are all social constructs, and I believe as a society, we are beginning to have some of that breaking down, and that is very good.
Agreed, agreed. So I do a lot of Akashic record readings for a lot of people, and a lot of women are being shown that they are leaders by the record keepers and guides. They're saying part of their soul blueprint is to lead, and that can be in the finances, it could be in the home, it could be anywhere. And but the other thing that the Akashic record keepers and guides are always quick to add is that in the new way, when as women are coming up and being more, taking more of a leader role, they're also encouraging them to allow their masculine counterpart to lead alongside them. So there's not, so there's, and all the women agree 100% straight away. They don't want to be the only leader in the family. They don't want to take the male's traditional male role on. They want to just be allowed to lead when it's a subject that they naturally are supposed to lead in. They can feel it intrinsically in their bodies and so on. So, yeah, I would agree with you. That's exactly what's happening. There's a lot of agreement from the people that are showing up for my readings. They're agreeing. They say, yeah, that makes the most sense. Let's lead side by side instead of one has to be dominant and one leaning on the other. It's much more balanced way forward.
Yeah. And if you think about the as above, so below, the idea where we are mirror images of the divine, then as co-creators, that concept in of itself is much more closer to the truth than having one being created by the other and one subservient to the other. And I believe this male-female can be the same. We're co-creators of families. We're co-creators of our society. And that equalness, equal doesn't mean sameness. There are distinct differences of the female body and the male body. And we can see it visibly. And also things that just comes with, right? For instance, strength, right? Physical strength. And there's really no need to pinpoint to that and saying, oh, that's discriminatory. Whatever is, and we don't have to read too much into it. And we're simply co-creators with different aspects of divinity in us.
Absolutely. I love that. And the word balance comes into play, doesn't it? Let's be balanced about everything. And yeah, I just love that. Just absolutely. I know I have some friends where the woman is the spokesperson for the couple, and some friends where the man is, but the woman isn't drowned out in that situation. It's just that he talks more than she does, and he loves talking, and that's great. You know, so when you're in a social situation, sometimes you know the male part of the couple is talking more than the female, and sometimes the other way around, and everybody just seems to be getting on with it. It's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about that. We've talked a little bit about relationships and family. And do you think that men can balance action and providing with conscious presence and being?
Yeah, whereas traditionally it may be only a subset of men feel comfortable in doing that. But if you look at the great spiritual leaders in the past and the tradition of householders, and you know, not much has been said about childbearing or being with the children. But I believe maybe that's not talked about because anecdotally it's just not documented. Remember, in terms of analoging or cataloging what has come to pass, often it's through the societal lens at a time, what's being recorded and what's discarded. So perhaps there is a greater shift, but it may, as a good thing, it may not be as great as we think. It may simply be a natural extension that truth is coming out and being more fluid, and that it is not as hidden and they're just expressing their natural self. And I do believe as co-creators of society, men and women naturally work together. The and that's our natural instinct to be loving, right? It's our true nature. So having true nature shine, I think that's more closer to the truth of what I believe in than this artificial, perhaps a social construct shift. And somehow, the men are awakening to something new.
Yes. And okay, so we've talked about social, we've talked about family, we've talked about work. What about in general, the new earth energies? There's what practices or tools do you see helping men to embody these new earth energies? Do you think that that's coming naturally, or do you have any special tools that you use? Or yeah, over to you.
Yeah, the quite a few meditations, and no one particular way is the only way. Right? We're always sharing different aspects of what works. I believe it's through exploration and what speaks to you, men and women, looking inward first and foremost, and what connects and what makes sense. And there's all sorts of practices that people can embrace and different paths to being in touch with self. And if you really think about that for a moment, the self, or through the self to the divine, there's often the core, the essence of it is neither masculine or feminine. So just being connected, using the same sort of connecting to the source, whether you're male or female, the practice itself is getting to the focal point, and the then the conduit becomes not as important whether it's a tool that most men use or they're beginning to uncover.
I just love all your answers today. They're so perfect. I was just wondering if you would also like to share with the audience uh, about your book. I know you've written a book and it's called The Spiritual Atheist, and it's got such an interesting and intriguing title. I was wondering if you'd like to talk to us about that.
Yeah, talking about alienating a certain segment. So it's a good that you brought up the title. So I should clarify. First and foremost, any particular belief, what I believe in is say one person truly believes in God, right? And that's my personal belief. And whatever that definition is, we'll put that aside. Whether God represents all of everything in totality, God represents this figure, God is an entity, God is a creature. Let's put that aside for now, because that is subject to debate. But if you put that aside, for me personally, an all-loving deity or an all-loving entity or existence, I would venture to hypothesize that existence does not mind whether we believe in that particular existence or not, right? The truth is truth. The truth does not need defending. So if you believe in an all-powerful God figure, the traditional, this entity that can deliver punishment or can have preferences, okay, let's put aside all judgment. Say that is the case. If we believe that is truly loving, then then that truth, that version of God, should not mind whether you believe in God or not. So that's where the title comes from. So even though I myself would probably be not defined as an atheist, it was more me connecting, an attempt to connect with people who are in outright denial that there's any existence of God whatsoever or of the divine. But it's to open up to say, okay, let's take that for what you believe in, and we honor that truth. And I'm saying that even if that is the case, and one remains staunchly atheist, atheism can still be a path to light, can still be a path to spiritual enlightenment. So the book is meant to connect with people that are more believing in that school of thought and encouraging that perhaps they don't have to fall outside of the spiritual practice. Right? Often they feel alienated that, oh, spirituality isn't for me. Anything that has to do with God or divine, that's just, the other end of science and has nothing to do with them. But I'm saying spiritual practice can do away with all of that. And to be a spiritual atheist is a path to, remember earlier we talked about there's no single way. And I do believe that that could be a way if someone practices it to get in touch with themselves and to the truth.
So beautifully said. I love this concept. I love this idea. I love your book. It's so brilliant to help people think about something in a different light. And I totally relate to this idea because I feel like a lot of people have become atheists because they just can't believe in the stories that we're told. In the Bible and things like that. They just feel that they weren't true and things like that. And I agree, some of the stories weren't true, but I can feel some of the stories were true because I can actually feel it. I'm quite a sensitive person, and I can sense when something's true and not true. So I can understand their viewpoint and being, disillusioned by the whole subject of religion can be very frustrating, all that sort of thing. So it can be very easy to just say, well, I don't believe in anything because it doesn't all add up for me. But at the same time, I'm very similar to you, Peter. I believe there is one God. And when I allowed myself to believe in everything that I now know is true because I've been opening the records for a long time and had validation, it was such a relief to me to know that we go on. It's so magical to know that we do go on, that we have. I have all my ancestors on the other side that check in with me regularly. They give me information, whatever they can. They're not always allowed to give me everything that I ask for, but they can give me some information. And it's changed my life completely. I am so much happier. I'm so much more relaxed knowing that we do go on, that we can go back to source, that we are all one. The fact that we are all one is also incredibly liberating to me. Even when I look at people that have completely lost their way, I still can connect with that inner spark within them that one day will return to the fold. And I just look at them and I think, wow, they're having such a good experience. They might be learning the toughest lesson available, but they're learning. And that also fills my heart with joy to know that people are going through those experiences. And because I know also that we choose our experiences, we choose our lives, we choose everything, which is very magical.
Hmm. And often people who we think may be, just say an extreme example, is serving the earth some disservice, but at the deeper level, we should express gratitude. Well, not should, but one way of expression to consider is to express gratitude instead, because instead of judgment, because that whatever that role that person plays is whether it's a juxtaposition with something else, the the other side is only available in the context of that other existing. So that in itself, the existence of it, that is the antithesis, is to be thanked, right? At some odd level, perhaps that the gratitude goes as far as, well, thank you for being that, so that we can express something else.
Exactly, yes. And I love the subject of judgment because it comes up in the records all the time. And it's something that I wish I could do away with completely. But the reality is, we're in physical human bodies and we have to make judgment calls all day to survive here on this earth plane. We have to, whereas there's other planets where people don't have to judge as much because they can feel that they're all one and they behave differently to us. But here we do have to exercise judgment, otherwise we wouldn't survive. So we have to get that balance just right of exercising judgment so that we can fulfill our mission and purpose for this lifetime, but not judging others for what their mission and purpose is, and just looking at that and saying that's wonderful. So I know a lot of people, for example, talk about how they're so worried about how there's such a lack of discipline with the young children. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, no, I don't think that that's the end of the world because I see a different side of that. For example, the young parents are knowing not to over discipline their children the way I was and the way my parents were over disciplined. And I think that's great. The younger ones are knowing this, and that means there's a big shift coming where the young children are going to grow up and they're going to be very different to how I am. I'm afraid of a lot of things. I'm afraid of upsetting people. And the youngsters aren't going to be like that. They're going to be much more about, less judgy and more about what's right for everybody. So I love it. I think it's great. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
just one example of judgment.
One
Um,
level. And then the other thing is maybe to consider is also, let's not judge the judgment, right? Let's not judge judgment. And judgment often do serve a purpose, especially on our plane, for functional purposes, but in moderation. And perhaps when the thought arises, the purpose is what you decide it is. And for some people, the judgment may come as a reminder of, okay, I'm not okay with something. So judgment comes along. And that is an expression I've been conditioned to use. And there's always free choice. I can choose, okay, now at this point, I can stop the judgment. I thank it. I recognize that's my feeling, and I choose something else. I choose to feel something else. I choose to approach the circumstance with another emotion or another approach. And so that can be a practice in of itself.
I love that. I love that sentiment or analogy, better than sentiment, analogy. I love that analogy. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. And Peter, do you have anything else to add about your book or anything else we've spoken about today?
No, you may have something else you want to cover.
Well, I was hoping to just focus on your book and what it's like for men in the new world. I actually chose this topic to discuss with you because I am actively looking for men's opinions about what's going on for them. It's very easy for me to know what's going on for women. I talk to a lot of women every day. I am a woman, but it's not always so easy to know what's going on for the men. And I have seen all these different groups popping up and thinking, gosh, these men are feeling like maybe like their voice is being taken away from them. But like you said, maybe that's just certain segments of society that are feeling that threatened maybe by this idea of the new way. Women are speaking up more, there's all these shifts, everything is going on. And I think we did cover that topic very, very well. And then, of course, I couldn't help going on to other subjects with you because I've always enjoyed our conversations. And now I'm very happy to share our conversations with the audience because we do have some interesting things. And you have such interesting ideas to share with the world. Love it. So good.
Oh, thank you. Well, on that note, one more observation would be, since you've observed that some men are having challenges or are looking for that voice or a group to support. I'm happy to be that conduit. So I'll look into more. Maybe I'll connect with you after to see where you're finding some of the people who perhaps are feeling that way. And perhaps for me, it's just an understanding, right? I'm not familiar with that. Perhaps my circle were my circle of friends, both male and female, were a little bit more open about sharing. But I can understand and I can see that that's not everyone. And perhaps getting to know where some of that sentiment comes from, we can shine a light to it and perhaps offer some help.
Okay, super. I will send any men with that have these questions to you. And also, obviously, I'm going to include your details at the end of this call in the description so that people can contact you directly, so that they can find your book. I believe you have it on Amazon as well.
Yeah, Amazon and Audible. So for people who want to listen, that's fine too.
Absolutely perfect. Okay, well, thank you. And I think that we should have another podcast soon, because I'm going to digest all the things that we spoke about today and come up with a new podcast so that we can share some more information and dive a bit deeper into some of the concepts that we discussed today. I think that's going to be very helpful for people.
Oh, wonderful. Looking forward to it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, take care, Peter, and we will speak to you soon. And to our audience, thank you for joining us today. I think this was a very powerful exploration of how men are being called to grow, heal, and rise with the new earth. And I know that this is going to inspire so many people in our audience. And I'm also going to include a little bit of information in our description about our monthly spiritual group that we have. If anybody would like to come along, if you enjoyed our conversation today, come and be more a part of the conversation. We have different subjects each month, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy a deep dive into some guided meditations, some healing, and also sharing information in a very supportive environment. So I'll include those details in the description below. So take everyone and stay magical.
Thank you.